So maybe can you describe what you're feeling when you're speaking and then you feel to say, "Oh, there's a message for me. They have a message for me." What's going on there?
No, there's just a deep, sometimes I'll feel energy. And, I mean, it went through many, many stages. And now what I get is there's like a deep, deep sense of knowing. I just know something. And I can sense it. It's almost like an antenna that's going out, and I can sense if it's for someone else, if it's for me, if it has where it relates. Because sometimes I'm sitting there going, "What is this about?" And they'll go, "Oh, somebody needs this." I mean, I just feel that. I just know it. It used to be I would actually hear, and sometimes I'll say I'm hearing something, but what it is it's that knowing. It's like every cell of my body knows something. That's cool. It was odd to get used to at first, but all of a sudden it's just like I know this. And so I just do it. And somebody tries to argue with me. It's like, but I know better. I know this. And because they'll push even harder. And it's like that knowing comes in even stronger. It's like, that's what it is. So, I just learned to trust it. And, okay, so somebody wants to know. See, here's how it works. Somebody wants to know some of the stages that it went through to understand where they are in this process. Okay. Here's one right here. See, I'm feeling like a sensation right here in my throat. Well, guess what that might mean?
What's that?
It means, what does the throat represent?
I guess speaking.
Speaking, exactly. So when I get a sensation there, sometimes it's just a whirling, or it's just a funny feeling, or it's actually a tugging feeling. It's kind of hard to explain unless you're in that body, knowing what it feels like. But it's like, what I take from that is my voice needs to say something. It's like there's something I need to say, something that needs to happen here. So that's how that interprets to me. And that's their message. See, this is how they talk. And they'll use different things. It's like I'll get hit sometimes when I'm hearing something, and I'll get hit right in the heart, or the high heart right here. Then I know it's just like, oh my gosh, love. There's so much love, and I'm picking it up from people. I'm picking it up from the message. I'm picking it up from something. But it's like that tells me the source of that information. I love that one. It also, that's a great way to understand truth, and we have our truth bumps, which I've talked about many times. Common everyday people know them, or just the average word for them. I don't know if common. There aren't any common everyday people anymore. It's just the way it is. But our normal term for these are called goosebumps. And so if you've ever had goosebumps, and I dare to say probably everybody has at one time or another,
Sure.
that is an ability. And that's one of your first ways of getting messages. Because some people say, well, I don't get messages. I don't know if I get anything. I don't get. And that's just because we're comparing ourselves. We have expectations of ourselves, and we're comparing ourselves to other people. And it's like, well, Susie gets visions, and Joe hears things, and whatever. There's different ways of getting information or doing this. And so it's like, but that doesn't happen to me. So it must not happen to me. I don't get messages. I don't get anything like that. So that's where the goosebumps are wonderful, to show people that, yes, you do get messages. You can do this. Because whenever you get goosebumps, it means whatever you just said or whatever you just heard is truth.
Yes.
So I like to call them truth bumps. So that shows you, and that's a great way of knowing. I mean, truth, that's a big ability to know truth when you hear it. That's huge. And that's one thing that we want to so many times is discern. If I can I trust this? Can I trust? And that's where if something hits me in the heart, it's like, okay, I can trust this. I can trust this person. I can trust this information. I can trust whatever. Those are different ways that our body is showing us. It's like it's talking to us all the time, and it's just tapping in and understanding how each person's body is speaking to them independently, and individually, because we all have different ways of doing it. So it started with things like that, just understanding pieces, getting, and then just start opening up more and more. Finally, I did start hearing. It was gut instincts for a while, gut messages. You just know something. It's like, this doesn't feel right. That's a great one. Start tapping into that one, accepting it, allowing it, and acknowledging it. Acknowledging it is a big one. That's the first big step. Acknowledge an ability. If we keep downplaying it and shooing it away, then how is it supposed to build and develop if we don't believe we have them? So if we will acknowledge an ability, then that opens the door for more to come in. So just, acknowledge it. Thank you. That's wonderful. Cool. What else? Things like that. And that keeps opening your door. It keeps you open and positive. Mm-hmm. So it was just very gradual. It was gut things like that. And then somewhere, this is so subtle for me, and it happened so gradually that it's hard to actually go, okay, on this day, this happened. On this day, this happened, because it just gradually shifted. And it became, then I started getting messages. It was like one word messages. I would just hear something. I'd ask a question and I'd hear something. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, that sounds good. And whatever, yes, no, whatever. Yeah, I'm just like, okay. I'm thinking it's just me, of course it is, but anyway, but I'm like, whatever, and then I want more. I want to start asking bigger questions or something. And then I actually started hearing things like, it sounded like in the back seat of the car, and it would get my attention. I'm like, oh my gosh, something's really happening here. Oh my goodness. And that's when it's like, okay, there really is some, it's not just in my head. I actually felt like I heard it outside of me. So that's what made me, I think, start looking more into it and acknowledging more. And the more I did these, if I got a message, constantly questioning. Constantly questioning. I don't know. It sounds good, but I don't know. I think that's my wishful thinking. It could be. But then what would happen is, and I think this might be a law of some kind of universal law, I don't know, but every time I would get a message, I would get 3 confirmations within a 24-hour period of that message. And it would come, many times it was in the form of somebody else just coming up to me and saying something to me. And it would be like verbatim what I got, or it was confirming that the information was true. Sometimes it would be on TV or radio or something. It just somehow something would happen and it would confirm that what I had gotten was true. Now, why that was important was because that would get me to start trusting what was happening, trusting what I was hearing. So first I'm acknowledging it. Second, I'm trusting it. Now, those are big, powerful pieces, because the more you acknowledge, the more you trust, the more it is building, because this is a muscle. It's a muscle that we're working. Exactly. Just like Kaya, you work out, you do yoga, you do all these wonderful building things. And see, you can tell Kaya does, because look at him. I do not do that with the body. Look at me. See? Anyway, but this is a muscle that I do work. And it shows, because it keeps building. And don't you love, Kai, how this is not going at all as we had planned? When they have their own agenda, we go with it.
Love it.
So anyway, it was just, and that's how you're building it. You're building that trust. And the more you trust, the more it comes through. And the more you're allowing, the more you're acknowledging, the more you're trusting. And as you see, it's just a constant cycle. And the more you do that, the stronger this muscle is building, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's opening the I don't know what to call this. The opening. It's opening the opening. It's opening the channel for more of this information to come through. Now, where is this information coming from? You ask. Well, each one of us has a greater part of ourselves, a much greater part of ourselves, that put a piece of it into what we call our bodies, into ourselves, who we think we are. Now, that greater part of us is always trying to communicate. Now, that's guides, guardian angels, higher self. Okay, so we have all kinds of names for it. Guides and guardian angels are a little bit different, but it's all part of the whole that is always communicating with us. So we can be communicating with any of these parts and these beings. But the higher part of ourself is actually us. It's just the bigger part of ourself. And that's what makes it so. It's like if you're hearing things and you're feeling things that feel so familiar, that's why. It's because it's actually you. It's just a bigger part of you that knows everything and knows why you're here. It knows what it is you're looking for. It knows what's going on and your whole plan and everything. So who better to ask information of, ask questions of, than that part of you that knows everything about you? You know, so that's when I understood that, and that was what was going on, that completely changed everything for me. It was no longer a being out there that I was begging to, or that I was trying to convince and help to understand who I was and what was going on and what I needed or anything like that. It was, this is me. This is me. So now, then it became me, this body holding hands with me, that greater part of me, going through life together. And it's like it was a partnership. We're working on this together. And so that's what I follow. Oh, I'm getting the truth bumps all over me right now. That's what I follow for everything I do. I follow my guidance. When I say I'm being guided, that's what it's about. I say I hear this, somebody needs to know this, whatever. That's what it is. It's this information. I don't have a need to identify it anymore. I used to. I wanted to know, these guides, guardian angels, is this me thinking? Is this you, the higher self? Things like that. I wanted to understand that. I think that's the human part of us. I think that's a natural part in doing this. That's the discernment phase, I call it. And I think it's very normal and natural and healthy for us to go through that, to understand who it is and what it is that's happening. After a while, I never could. It all kind of formed into one. And that's when somebody said that was when integration happened. Okay, whatever. I don't have words for all these things. Other people tell me what's happening sometimes, but that's when it all integrated and it no longer had different sounding voices or anything. It was just all part of one, and it was all me. It was all just coming in. And then, like I said, now it's just translated into a deep, deep knowing. I just know things. So that's in a really concise little nutshell, kind of, sort of, how my development happened. And that's kind of what I've understood from other people. That's kind of standard. A lot of people go through that course. Now, some people, it happens very, very quickly. In my case, it happened over years and years. That's fine. It's however we choose to go through that awakening, that enlightening, that whatever we want to call it. So there. Did that help anybody?
Yeah, that's great. I saw lots of messages in the chats of people connecting and understanding, and there is always a sense of curiosity that we all have to open up that reservoir of deep, deep light and guidance that we have at our disposal constantly and ready for us. And
that's the biggest thing right there. It's at our disposal constantly. That you've got to know that. When they always deliver the messages of you are never alone, that's what they mean. See, they are always there. They are always with us. And we call it they because once you get beyond the veil, see, it's just on this side of the veil. And if anybody needs to understand, we can explain the veil here in a minute. But on this side of the veil, we feel like we're separate. We feel like we're individual beings with our own unique characteristics and personalities and okay, the uniqueness is definitely true. The separateness is not. And that's what they really want us to know. We are not separate. And we understand that when we get on the other side of the veil. And that's when it's all one and everybody's together. But we still keep our uniqueness and individuality there. So it's individuals and uniqueness, but not separate. We are all together. So that's why many times we use the word they, because it comes through like a collective, like a group. So if you ever hear me say they are saying, that's because it's They finally at one point said, call us your guidance team, because that kind of helps explain the they part of it. That helps people to understand that. So see, all of this is a progression. And like, I just follow my guidance.
Yes. And as we talk about teams, for me, my team is led by the first past life that I ever had in QHHT. That Suzanne Spooner did it, and I was a French explorer traveling to the New World, and it was this life that I was experiencing. It was so exciting, and there was so much connectivity to it. You know, that it absolutely was real, because a lot of people are questioning. They go through this experience like, oh my God, did I make it all up? They say this, even though they feel in their heart that it's something that's really special and it's really connected and it makes them feel really good. But they still, that voice is like, you made it all up. You make it all up? Is it real? Can that be real? Or what should be real? Only what I see and what I hear, right? And it's now getting to a point where we're seeing beyond those borders, and we're taking peeks and glimpses into the greater parts of us, into who we really are. And the connection with my team and my guides has expanded like incredibly within the context of these last 2-3 years that I've been engaging with our community and expanding, and we've been co-creating. and doing all kinds of sessions on each other and working through channeling and this information that comes in. And when I get into this state, it's my higher self is there. And the best analogy that I can use is the higher self's the DJ. So
I love it.
the higher self is the DJ. You're the music. The lower self.
You're the sound.
You're the sound. That's
like the speaker. The speaker?
Could be the speaker.
Okay.
It could be correct. Yeah. And the information's coming from lots of different sources at their time. And for me, like there's a big connection to celestial energy and other streams of higher levels of consciousness and intergalactic. It's sort of like, I guess the best way might to describe it would be a cosmic consciousness.
Ooh, I like that.
So it's a consciousness of the collective, maybe 3 C's. And it's always a group that's coming in and participating, and they're participating in different timelines and different places and giving me this energy that allows sort of like a turbocharging to come through. And it's usually, it happens with a greater degree of intensity when I have an audience, or when there's the more people that are listening. It could be 1, 2, but it gets more powerful if it's more. And when we do live sessions and we'll do live events, it's very powerful, and we have 100 people in the room, and there's all kinds of really fun things going on with how people are working through the energy. So it's always the present. It's so interesting how this connection and this energy expands, and it expands to everyone. And this technology is just like a little spark. The technology that we use now, that we get to view and we get to use this Facebook medium, it's just a little spark that allows us to connect and open up completely into this new sort of energy and thought processes and connections and expanding with each other. And it's almost like a machine. Like you kind of dial into the machine, and it amplifies your vibration, and you get suddenly stimulation for these new thoughts as we're discussing these topics. And it's fun because we participate in this, and like checking out the comments, and everybody's kind of, it's really fun to read them after, and in real time it's really, really cool, but we don't get to do that because we'd have to be cross-eyed, it'd be too hard.
And they're tiny for me.
But it's such a beautiful thing. And I'll get into it in a moment as to just how important it is, because the connection, what we're doing right now, actually has an impact on karma. So now's as good time as any to kind of get to the bottom of this karma thing, because karma is the most misunderstood fact of Earth. The most misunderstood concept that we have here as human beings is the laws of karma, the thoughts of karma,
okay,
sequence and structure of karma. There's quite a saying we have here. It's quite popular. Karma's a bitch.
I've also heard karma's going to get you.
Karma's going to get you. Oh boy, they'll get karma for that. Karma will even the score, won't it? And we think about that context of karma that has the negative connotations to it that seem to have the primary vibration of vengeance.
Yeah.
If you think about a driver behind the words and the concept and the activity and action of something that's happening, there is sort of a vengeful driver and evening the score to a perception of karma.
Okay.
And on the soul level, we would like to open up the conversation and allow people to truly understand that the very nature of karma is a uniting and a rebalancing and a re-energizing divine matrix. It allows the individual to experience the flip side of the coin, to get a fuller feeling and understanding for the topic of exploration, for the theme of life or lives that the soul is experiencing. It's a miraculous built-in mechanism that can allow that person a great deal of healing, rebalancing, reconnecting, and realigning of the soul matrix so that they can complete that task, that activity, that mission that they're on, and move on to something else in a purely balanced state, ready to take on a newer challenge, ready to take on the next level that they have in an ascension. Possibly could be in the same vibration, in the same dimension, in the same world, but big overcoming of karma or big rebalancing of energies will allow the soul to make bigger leaps forward as they go forward and take on new challenges. It's a very interesting thing to think about, how we've had this device and how we can use this other side of the coin, this mirror, into our actual activities and how we make others feel and what we put out into the world, and the sort of realigning and seeing things and patterns that we tend to have. Isn't it interesting? We tend to go through cycles of, seems like I'm going through this all over again. Geez, this is another cycle of this. Went through this before, but it's never the same. Never, ever, 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 ever